The first Monday in October marks World Habitat Day. It was launched more than 30 years ago when the United Nations declared that every person deserves a decent place to live. In Kenya, the government is partnering with donors on an ambitious project to ensure more than 5 million slum dwellers receive proper housing. CCTV's Robert Nagila visits one slum in Nairobi.
55-year-old Anthony Shamwata has lived in Kibera for more than a decade. It's the largest shanty town in Kenya. Anthony lives in a single room made of corrugated iron sheeting and shares a communal bathroom and toilet. But all that's about to change. A $300 million upgrade funded by the World Bank and the Kenyan government is nearing completion. Thousands of trading stalls and single-room units, complete with running water and electricity, have been built for residents living and working along the railway line. Anthony can't wait to move in.
This place doesn't have a toilet, but the new houses have a toilet and a bathroom. Here the bathroom is outside and the door doesn't lock properly.
The project complements the government's efforts to upgrade slums by improving housing and sewage systems in the area. Over the past few years, portions of Kibera have been eaten up by real estate development targeting the middle class. And that's why the slum upgrading program here is so vital to uplifting the livelihoods of those that live here. Okay. But some say the project is taking too long.
We are happy that they are upgrading the area, but they keep extending the completion date. It's been 15 years and they've only completed the first phase.
The upgrade program is targeting 5.3 million slum dwellers by 2020. Launched in 2001 and funded by the United Nations, it's expected to cost $13 billion once completed. But there have been challenges. Attempts to relocate slum dwellers to their new homes have been met with resistance. Despite government assurances, many residents are worried they won't be able to afford the rent on the new properties. But as the new infrastructure, including tarred roads, street lights and drainage systems, develops, the government hopes to persuade these communities that a brighter future awaits them. Robert Nagila, CCTV, Nairobi, Kenya.
Let's assess further the situation on the continent and discuss this. Joined by Dr. Isa Kirabo Kasiria. She's the Assistant Secretary General of UN Habitat. Dr. Kirabo Kasiria, thank you very much. It's World Habitat Day here. What kind of achievements, though, have been realized on the African continent?
Thank you very much, first of all, for giving me the opportunity. I must say that for us, this time is a very unique time. And allow me just briefly to talk about why. While we've been celebrating the World Habitat Day since 1986, since 2014, the Governing Council and finally the General Assembly endorsed the fact that we should also celebrate the World Cities Day. And since that time, that was last year, we've been celebrating the Urban October. And so it's such a joy for me to be here to share with you that uniquely, this Urban October, we shall also be celebrating and reflecting on what we've been achieving, what we've achieved in the last 20 years. And that is going to culminate into this big conference on urbanization and human settlements in Quito, Ecuador, on the 17th of October this month. So specifically on the area that we are reflecting on today on the World Habitat Day, whose theme is housing at the center, what the world has been looking for is to ensure that in our towns, in our cities, everywhere where human beings are, they have access to affordable, decent shelter. And that has been a desire and dream that we haven't been able to achieve. I must say that there's been a lot of effort that has been put into that. And in 2000, as part of the Millennium Development Goals, it was decided that we should have a world without slums. And a lot of effort has been put into that. Since then, according to our research in our State of the World Cities report in 2010, it was clear that over 227 million people had got out of slums and slum-like conditions.
But slum conditions in Africa are still an issue. Informal settlements on the continent are still an issue. And of course, Africa is rapidly urbanizing. What sort of challenges, though, are African countries facing when they're trying to provide decent housing for their citizens?
Well, the thing is, you're right. About 62% of people living in towns in Africa are still in slums and slum-like conditions. So there is a big problem. And I think the problem is what the world is now recognizing, that rather than just focus on housing, why don't we look at the entirety of what urbanization and cities bring on board? Because within this process of urbanization, actually, there's a lot of power to create jobs, to create wealth, and to be able to access housing in addition to other services and opportunities that we'll be looking for. When people come to towns and cities, that's what they're looking for. So in that context, what we're saying is that it is important that policies, government, and our partners work towards planning ahead for urbanization. And if we plan ahead for urbanization and invest in it appropriately at the right level, then we'll be able to turn it into an engine of socioeconomic transformation to the extent that it can actually be a source of growth and development for its people.
As the continent urbanizes, though, are there notable differences, though, when it comes to providing housing for the rural populations versus the urban populations?
Well, I must say that is very true, and that is why at UN Habitat, with our partners in this agenda, we are advocating for sound national urban policies, so that when we look at housing or urbanization, we don't just focus on capital cities or towns, but we look at the whole continuum from the cities to towns to village centers, because it's a system. I think some countries have done it well, but those are like the fewer. Others have put in a lot of effort and have made a big step, especially in getting the people out of slums and slum-like conditions, but still there is a gap. I must say that, and I want to commend already what has been done here in Kenya. I know Kibera is a big slum, but there's a lot of work that currently is going on. What we look forward to is to engage with governments so that we can review policies and turn them into an integrated policy framework that can enable people, first of all, to have good governance, access to land, rights and security of tenure, and then be able to plan proactively and invest in job creation in order to be able to do the housing right.
Very briefly, though, are you seeing governments, though, being able to provide decent housing for their citizens?
Well, I think there is a lot of effort into that. I don't think it would be possible for government alone by itself, and that is why the new urban agenda, also building on the Habitat agenda, is really advocating for partnerships. We need to have public-private partnerships, but it's clearly important that government establishes the right policy and regulatory background to support that kind of process to take place. So there is effort, but it's important that it be moved faster, because the pace at which urbanization is taking place today is fastest, especially on this continent, than ever before. I would like to say that specifically for the African continent, in the process of actually moving towards Quito, as I mentioned, they have developed what they call the Common African Position, that is prioritizing urbanization and human settlements as part of the priority in the 2063 agenda of African Union. And so we believe that with this political will, we would be very delighted as UN Habitat, headquartered here in Africa, to work with our within the UN system and with government, and be able to provide the technical expertise and the research, so that at policy and technical level we're able to move forward. But at the end of the day, leadership lies with government, and support has to be given, especially to local government, and I must say mayors.
Thank you. Dr. Isaac Rabokasiria, thank you very much for your insights on Habitat Day.